Yeah, a very good morning from wherever you're watching us from. This is Daybreak. A very good morning to you. It's on Wednesday, right? It's Tuesday. Tuesday. Oh, yeah. The weekend was quite long, so forgive me.
Uko holiday,
Bado niko holiday, but good to see you, good people.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right.
Yeah, recovering quite well.
So ungelala tu leo.
Ungelala tu.
Urelax tu.
Watu watupeleka mahali Naivasha kidogo. Tulikuwa na family event inaitwa nini. Yeah, so but it is what it is.
Nice.
Yeah, lazima tupige job au sio?
All right.
It's a long time no see. Sage.
Long time.
Himself. How you doing?
Very well. Yeah. Good to see you here.
Good to see you as well.
Yeah.
Right. The only lady on set.
Yes, leo mimi ndo princess. I'm happy to see you, Bensu.
Happy to see you too.
Tunapitananga tu kwa corridors.
Kwenye harakati. And of course,
I want you to say it. Yeah, it's good to see you. Finally, we meet on set. Eh?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and welcome. Pole kwa kupona. Ulikuwa Ngemi ama ulikuwa wapi?
Ngemi walifanya ile. Yeah, but once in a while ni poa kuunwind, au sio?
Yeah.
Yeah, so of course leo I'm sitting in for QT. I'm in the road show hapa na pale. Ya Safaricom, Safin bado hajarudi, so mimi ndio niko. So kizungu sana mpunguzi. But of course today we're talking about different of course generations, and maybe as I don't want to call anyone old here, but I believe we've got some really old people on set.
Kama wewe.
Kama mimi. No, mini Gen Z. No, of course, no, but I represent them all right? So maybe we'll start with Sage, because Lindsay ashaanza kuniharakisha hata hatujamaliza introduction. So Sage,
right.
Different generations and how to handle them, maybe even in the workplaces. We've seen the rise of Gen Zs, like wamekuja wamefunika generation zingine zote. What's been happening, Sage?
With every generation, I think there's been a higher level of awareness of self, the environment, goals. And sometimes when we talk about, for example, Gen Zs or millennials, and pit them against the Gen X, I find it unfair because the Gen X are the parents to these people. Sure. So they raised them, they trained them. It is built on the wisdom of the other generation. So, for example, the baby boomers raising up the Gen X, they teach them certain things, tell them how to think in a certain way. Then these ones also borrow from what their parents had, and they teach the next and the next. So I think every generation is a progression of the previous generation. They build on the gains, they learn from the mistakes. Only that sometimes when we are dealing with the new, we don't think that they will come out the way they do.
We expect them to be like us.
Nearly like us. We have taught them to be independent, but we are not ready for that independence. We teach them to speak out, but we're not ready for when they're speaking out. We don't mind them speaking out to other people. When they now speak out to us, then we begin to challenge that because that's not what we thought. So I think it's just a thing of people not being ready for the consequences. But again, sometimes I feel like we profile too much because even among those Gen Zs, people talk about Gen Zs at work, but you'll also find a very different breed of Gen Zs, very different breed of millennials. So sometimes the profiling is also not very fair because not everybody acts like that. You'll find a Gen X who is acting the same way you would say Gen Zs act at work. And then you'll find a Gen Z who acts very differently as well. Yeah.
Roberta?
Yeah.
You agree with CJ?
Yeah, I do, but I just want to add onto that. I feel like the Gen Zs are very, very much misunderstood. But I like that CJ
The only
has
generation that is misunderstood.
No, everyone maybe has a different misunderstanding at some point. You know, if I say one group has something, doesn't take away from the other group. It doesn't mean it's because we're like this. You know, it's not even in comparison. But I think tuko in an age where, like CJ mentioned, you know, the awareness, the confidence, iyo tu level ya kukua able to speak out for ourselves. maybe the people who came before us had some fears, you know. If you speak up at the workplace, you could lose your job. If you speak up on the government level, you could get abducted or killed. If you speak up, Siji, at home, your dad will chwada you. If you speak up in school, you'll be beaten. Now, you raise kids who, you know, should be able to question. And it's not just questioning outside the home. They should be able to ask you questions as a parent, like, why are you telling me to wear my jacket? Why? No, because I'm the parent, I said so. No, you should be able to explain because these whys. Yes. Yeah. Let's have a discussion about it. Don't just get angry at me, then try to impose your rules and your regulations upon me. And the reason I mentioned that I feel like the Gen Z is very misunderstood is also, you see, the notion that they're painted on the, especially on social media, people think there are these people who are so dissociated, they don't care, they don't attach easy, they're so quick to move on, they don't stay, they don't fix, they don't like to work on things, they don't like. But the thing is, in an age where you have access to education, to knowledge, in an age where you have the access to be able to learn more about yourself, you're able to speak out for yourself. Utajipata, it's very difficult for you to stay in situations that do not favor you as much as they should. And yes, there's a beauty in staying and fixing and mending and learning and, you know, growing in situations, but there's also a beauty of learning to choose yourself, knowing when to walk away when things are not working for you. So I'd say, like, in the workplace, when they say, kuna hizi memes going around ati Gen Z leo amekuja, akasema haskia na moods, akaenda home, amekuja na Crocs, amekuja na nini. Let me try to explain it from my eyes. I'm not saying this is the universal umbrella general truth, but let me explain how I see it. Last week I mentioned how when I'm relating with people, I don't really see hierarchy. I just see humanness. I see we're all human beings, so we all deserve to respect each other and treat each other well. That's how I see it in my eyes. So in situations where maybe there's authority trying to, do I use the word impose? Because that's how it feels. It feels like an imposition. Trying to tell you, you know, cover your tattoos. What does my tattoos have to do with? Don't look at my tattoos.
It's you who is.
What does my tattoos have to do, you know, with the output that I have, with my intelligence, with my level of work? I mean, maybe there's professions where it should be regulated. I don't know. But honestly, I feel like if you're able to show up as yourself, I would want for people to be the most authentic. I don't want anyone around me who's hiding because they don't feel comfortable, because they're not sure they'll be accepted in this space, because they'll be judged, because they have tattoos. That has nothing to do with their level of prowess or level of intelligence most times. So we judge a lot of things by, you know, their appearances. We judge things by just looking at them and we say, uyo msichana kwa comments, naonanga comments zenu ati uyo msichana ako covered in tattoos, nini anaweza niambia nisikize? And I'm like, yeah. You can pick and choose. You can listen to CJ and then ikifika pati yangu una channel alafu unarudi tena unaona unasikiza Ken, like ni sawa. It's a free world, you get to choose. But I mention the misunderstanding in that communication ndo shida. Tunashindwa kuelewana on a lot of levels, and it doesn't mean anyone is wrong. It just means we're speaking in different languages and it's a bit difficult for us to agree at times. So it doesn't mean ati watu wako na maringo juu wanataka kuvaa Crocs kwa ofisi ama watu wako na madharau. It's just, let's have a conversation actually and say, you know, you're sitting on the front office, it just looks better if you're dressed official, so do this, and then on Saturday you can wear these Crocs of yours. It's just about communication. And vitu zenye zilikuwa acceptable, you know, kitambo. Let me just keep giving the example ya tattoos, because hiyo ndo inakuanga a very big issue, ama dreadlocks, ama sijui nini. There's an airline, I won't mention their name, that has started allowing the cabin crew to, you know, show their tattoos and stuff. And they're actually currently famous for exactly that. And it doesn't affect the level of work, doesn't affect the level of professionalism, doesn't affect anything. But you see, you could go somewhere else and you'll be told, I'm sorry, you have to cover, you have to hide, you can't show, blah, 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 it can't be seen. So if we're able to have these conversations openly and explain to each other and accept criticism, accept questions, accept, if you can answer me the whys very well, like, and I can listen to you, then it makes sense. And even me, I'll be like, oh yeah, that absolutely checks out, and I understand what you're trying to say. So we don't have beef with each other's intergenerationally. It's just a misunderstanding. That's what I think.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
Ken, what you think?
I agree with CJ and with Roberta. One of the things I do not accept, I don't accept the fact that Gen Zs are a problem that needs to be solved. And that's the wrong approach that we have. When we look at a generation like this is a problem and we need to solve, I think what we have not yet done, assimilated parents to accept that children can grow up and start making their own decisions. We did not envisage where Gen Zs can start challenging the status quo. When you look at these Gen Zs, Gen Zoomers, the first people to be born in an era where technology has been accepted, you first must understand the characteristics of a generation before defining whether they are defiant or rebellious. When you look at baby boomers, or maybe that's too old, Gen X. Gen X, having a tattoo was a sign of rebellion. Having dreads was a sign of rebellion. And when Gen X grows knowing that, they will not accept that I could not have a tattoo. How can I expect my own child to be rebellious against me? And so it's a situation of even sometimes a struggle of power. In the workplace, when you see one generation fighting the other generation, is about survival tactic, because you think these ones will come, they want to take over and show off, and I am going to lose my job. But what we don't understand is every fresh person brings some fresh ideas into the workplace. And until you give that person an opportunity to showcase what they can be able to bring, then you're going to remain redundant. We are talking of Gen Zs being very rebellious. What about Gen Alpha? People who know shortcuts to answers. Yeah? They have been given assignments today. They don't want to tire going to look for information. The yes is a search, specifically. Yeah? You know, I'm also actually worried. We were discussing it with some scholars somewhere, that we are going to even have PhD holders whom we don't know what research they did on, because they went on the internet, ChatGPT, DeepSeek. I was told the other day about another one. Is it Percept-like? Yeah, that gives you a lot of information.
So we have a doctor who is
a doctor who does not even know they are doctors. Like some of the reverends we have, they are reverend doctors. Nobody knows where they get. Sorry, CJ. They are your peers. Yeah. But what we need to understand is, one, why are Gen Zs looked at like they are antisocial? When were these people born? 1997, 2000? When everybody was fearing what will happen, the millennial bug, you may not know, CJ and I know about it.
Including myself.
Yeah, the millennial bug, nothing happens. Let's bring it home, closer home to Kenya. When you look at the Gen Zs opting to go to the streets, they are saying, in short, that in 2007, we were less than 10 years old. We saw politicians making the country lock down so that the politicians can have their way. So it's our time now to close the country so that we can have our way. Where are these people coming from? Who are the Gen Zs in the year 2018, 19, 20 when we had Corona, where the world was told, be silent, be alone, be yourself, and just stay alone. You have been taught how to be antisocial. Who are the Gen Zs today who came into the workplace when the workplace was being told you can work remotely or hybrid? And they are asking, we were inducted online. Why should we come in person to work?
True.
It is how you train up a generation that will matter how. So it's not a problem, and that's what I want just to say. Gen Zs are not a problem. It's just the fact that we are not able to sit down. Look at any ideal workstation today has Gen X, probably, millennials, Gen Zs, and some Gen Alpha to some companies that allow shadowing. Yeah? For 8-year-old, 9 years old to start shadowing. So Gen X will start looking at, hey, I'm about to retire. but kazi yangu haitaenda na Gen Z, sitakubali. And because they occupy the senior position, they will try as much as possible to put the Gen Z down using the millennials. But this competition will only come to hurt us as opposed to helping us to grow. So what I would ask for is, can people just try to understand each other? Last week I talked about team buildings, where some backlash somewhere I was told. At a team building, but it is ideal true that a team building is not a place to go jump and just have fun and just go home. A facilitator in a team building should be able to bring the behavior in the activities and bring it home and ask whether that is actually what happens in an ideal situation. So can we have a situation where we can invite people who understand characteristics of a generation and try to help you assimilate? Any serious company cannot do a training without doing a training needs analysis, so that you understand what are the needs of the management, senior management, middle-level management, subordinates, new entrants, and so we are able to blend together. So now you ask me, what about a Gen Z dating a millennial?
My lord.
Millennials on our test. You know, millennials don't even use emojis.
Yeah, they don't when chatting.
No, you can't even know
Those uncles.
if they're angry, if they're sad. They just send this mini, like...
I think, CJ, I've listened to Bobby and Ken, and they're insisting on communication between generations. Like, for example, when at times when I get home, I have a son who is 8 years, and he will tell you, Daddy, stop shouting at me. You get it? But it's because me, I was raised in a generation where my dad would say, "Ka chin," and I sit down.
Yeah.
But now when it comes to my son, he's like, "Me, don't shout at me." You get? So now we go back to your point where you were talking of communication.
Yeah.
And so now you expect me to, Daddy, now what I'm saying.
Yes, Bensu.
Please, can you sit down so that we can eat? You understand? So how do we now communicate with these other generations?
You know, some of the behavior that we adapted were for survival. And even those parents that we had before, this is what they knew, that was what was available, and sometimes even their temperaments were shaped by their circumstances. Yeah. But then sometimes we adapt that and think this is the norm. You probably had a parent who was working a very difficult job, paying very little. They've got to raise quite a number of children. It's not like today where people have 2 kids or at most 3. If you have 3, you've really done well.
Or a cat.
Oh, yeah.
Or a cat.
Thank you for the acknowledgement.
That's a whole issue. That's a whole issue. I have one of my assistants who was trying to be a cat mom. She had to give away that cat.
It's not easy.
A cat mom?
No, I was on her case till she had to release the cat. But so you have a mother who's probably raising 7 kids, 8 kids those days, with a father who goes out to work and doesn't earn too much. The pressure will put on this woman a temperament. And so she'll be shouting and screaming because you're trying to manage 7 kids, 8, there's not much food, they've got to go to school, they've got to do this. Then these 8 kids, they come up and they're raising like 2 or 3 kids and they want to adopt the same survival temperament that the mother had. It just won't work. We have a very interconnected world. Kids interconnect with other kids. You find your kids telling you, people are saying, you say, who are the people saying? It's their friends. If they're in a world where, and we talked about awareness, nobody's shouting anywhere else, you're not going to shout. Because they have been exposed to this through their friends, things online. There's a lot of information. Counselors like Ken will come out and talk a lot about how you're supposed to parent your children, communicate with them. So I think for me, the bigger issue in communication is usually respect. That you understand that this is a human being. They have a will, they have a mind, they have emotions, they have thoughts, they have a perspective. It may not always be the truth, it may not always be factual, but it's a perspective. And if we understand that every one of us has a perspective, like whether it is a 6 or a 9, none of us is wrong, it's where we are standing from. So if I understand that you're talking from where you see it, And all I need to do is make you see it the way I'm seeing it. It becomes a bit better. That's what Bobby was talking about. Like, just tell me why I need to put on the jacket. I have a retirement son. That was a retirement son. He's he'll turn about it. No. Not act.
He's the last.
He's not act. We're retired. Retired completely, you know. and this boy will do what he wants. He's going to 11. He'll do what he wants. We'll go into the office. He'll take my seat. So I have to look for another seat somewhere else. I'll tell him, let's do this. He says, no, we're not doing that. And no explanation. He will do whatever he wants. But I have to understand where he is at as well. And I have to understand, this is my son. This is not a mistake that happened. This is not a problem that came to me. This is my son. He is growing. He needs to understand the world I am in. I need to understand the world he is in. Between the two of us, who is most likely to understand the other person's world? It is me. So it is generally the responsibility of the adult or the older one to try and understand the world of the other person, where they're coming from. Then begin to guide them to also see the side that they're coming from. There's something that I need to talk about also, and this should help Bobby. There's the thing of factoring in cultures. I have a book I've just brought for Ken today. There's a thing, even when you're doing business, you factor in cultures. So you may go to a place and they don't like this kind of haircut. You know, it's a whole culture. It's not even an individual. It's a whole culture. There's an airline one time that when they were doing their inaugural flight into a country, they thought that the color white was a beautiful color. You remember the story?
Yeah.
And they went in, and the color white was offensive. And the thing backfired.
Yeah.
It was completely offensive. So it backfired on them because they didn't understand the culture of the people. So what they thought was working wherever they were, now this is peace, didn't work on the other side. So sometimes also, understand the culture of the places you go to, that you may have rights, but it may be offensive. Maybe if I do this, it means one thing here. I go into another culture, that's nearly like an insult.
Yeah.
So also, both sides, just try to understand, where is this person coming from? I know that for the Gen X, there are a lot of fears because we grew up in hierarchy, no questioning, and we expect the same. The people who actually changed the workplace are not the Gen Zs, it was the millennials.
Yeah, true.
The millennials began to question. The millennials started going past the hierarchy because they wanted to focus more on performance. So they wanted to know, why should I, you know, be under Ken and I'm producing more? Why am I reporting to him? And why is he being paid more and I'm doing the bulk of the work?
True.
And why should I go to him when the decision is with Bensu? So why not go to Bensu and get the decision? So it's a generation of speed. I think the speed factor is also causing some of these issues. So Ken will be sitting there and feeling undermined. Like, why is Bobby going straight to Bensu and I am the line manager? And then Bobby is like, but if I'm going to go to you, then you go to Bensu. Why shouldn't I shorten the process? So those are some of the difficulties that people are facing with how people are thinking. And so if I am sitting in Ken's position, I may think that Bobby's disrespectful, but it's just the way she's wired to think. Like, why go through the whole process when a decision can be made over here? It also cost companies to lose a lot of people from the millennials and now Gen Zs, because if she has to keep on going to Ken and then Ken says, I'll think about it, and it's taking a week or two or something, then here comes CJ, who is able to give her the freedom to come in and express herself. She will leave. So even when people say, you know, these people are quitting work, sometimes they're going to people who are giving them the room to do what they need to do, the element of autonomous, of being autonomous. So I think it's just a whole, as we say, misunderstanding of the perspectives of the various generations. Yeah.
Right, let's jump into, Ken, you ended up with saying about a relationship.
Yeah.
I want us to go to that juice.
Yeah, but before, please allow me to say something.
Okay, sure.
I have some partners that we hold each other accountable. We are four of us. There's James, Dennis, and Albert, and myself. I know they closely watch this. We always remind ourselves when we are running the business that there is no way a child can challenge a parent. a parent who has been a child before must understand that the baby needs to be nurtured. You cannot kill a dream of a baby by being the grown-up here. That you want to shout to your 8-year-old so that they can know you are the father. Are you doubting your fatherhood about this child? And so what we remind ourselves is, if you have somebody who wants to learn, please don't put them down. Sure. Allow them to groom. Yeah, and you know, when you give people the free will, you will learn so much about these people. You know, one thing, one characteristics I have known about the Gen Zs in the workplace. Gen Zs struggle with technology more than millennials in the workplace.
Wongo.
Are you sure?
That is very, very true. And ask any senior people, because Gen Zs have known the shortcuts faster than the real. The people who used the Microsoft DOS.
Which is easier?
Sometimes it is not the end result. It is the process that matters. So that when you're found with a situation to make a decision, you don't just go to a decision without thinking about it. The thought process is a very important part of anything that you do, not just in the workplace. Anything that you do in this life, please think through. Don't just go for it. Don't go for your graduation because it's your 4th year. What did you learn in year 1, 2, 3, and 4 is what matters along the way. Yeah, I just needed to say that.
Yeah, Bobby differs with you. Because now, Bobby, if the process is longer and you have a shorter process that will give the same results, what makes the difference?
I mean, I can understand what he's saying. I like the way when I say something and then someone rebuttals like with the other side of the information. So I like what he's saying because it does make sense. I mean, you know, I consider myself a lazy person. I don't like doing hard work.
Finally.
I don't like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. I don't say this in a demeaning way, by the way. I'm just using
It's a testimony.
It's just an adjective.
You're lazy.
It's just an adjective. It doesn't mean I don't get stuff done. You know, I do get stuff done, but I like to, you know, they say lazy people are normally really, really smart because they get stuff done in the shortest way possible. And this, hiyo ndo sasa inakufanya utoke kwa destination, unatokea kama umemaliza kazi. But I really appreciate the process and the journey as well, because it matters. You need to be able to answer questions when you're asked, why did you decide this? Why did you feel this was the best way to take? If you just end up at the destination, you really can't answer much questions. And I was thinking, as CJ was speaking, I was just thinking about, you know, this intergenerational wars. We used to have it in my home because between my parents and me and my brother, because kuna hiyo hatuelewani, kuna tu vitu nyingi different
generations.
My mom still does the way her mom used to do, and if you try to change, inakuwa beef ya ukweli. Yani kama tunendanga church ya 6 lazima tuende church ya 6. Ukisema uende church ya 12 wewe umeharibika. The world is over. You know, nothing will ever be the same. Najua atani text after this. Then I'm going to give these examples. But how I see, like, we have so much integration right now. My mom is very good with word of mouth. And I see that a lot in her generation. She's a Gen X. I see, like, if she needs something, she'll call CJ and they'll talk about it and they'll make it happen. If she needs CJ, where she'll call Ken and they'll have a discussion or they'll actually meet and talk. You know, wako na hiyo meet kuongea sana. Na sisi hatuna hiyo sana. We don't like picking phone calls. We don't like replying messages.
If it is textable.
If it's textable, please just text. We don't like meeting sana, you know. So I think that we have words for that. I'm an introvert. I am socially awkward. I don't like being in crowds. I have to take so long to recover. And all these things are true and they are valid. And, you know, naji exposed, by the way. Naongea about myself. Kama mimi nikipiga story sana, kichwa inaniumanga. I just need to go home and sleep. Even if all I've done is just speaking. So kudos to you even for being on radio and talking all that long. Mimi kichwa ingekuwa inaniuma.
Ni kazi
ngumu, si rahisi. So what I see, like, intergenerationally in the home that tunasaidiana, since my mom needs a word of mouth, meeting, we let her shine in that area. When it comes to, when she tells me, Roberta, in fact, ulikuwa uende kwa mama nani uchukue,
Siendi.
Mambo za mama nani na mama nani, that is your forte. Please shughulika wewe enda. Kama ni errand, I will run for you. But kuongea, if she can just bring those things outside at the gate, I pick them as I'm running away. Fine. But ati niende nikae tupige story, wanze kuuliza oh, kazi iko aje, shule ulimaliza lini, unaolewa lini. Sitaki story nyingi sana.
Toto si paka.
Sitaki story mingi. Alafu Sisi and my brother very tech savvy. Sijui, Chris, I need what poster, pap. I need sijui nini. He's a graphic designer. Akusomea hizi vitu shule, but there's nothing he can't do. If you ask him, you know, convert this for me, do this for me. And my mom has trouble with these things. That's the shortcut Ken was talking. Yeah. So unaona tuna merge badala ya kukuwa na beef tunasaidiana. Like my mom, I do all her documents for her, all the readings and anything she needs to sign, going through her things for her, putting her things in order for her, paperwork, documents, nini filing, nini kila kitu ni mimi ndo nafanya. So she doesn't have to worry about, you know, where are my papers, where are my, did I send this document where. Lakini ikifika saa ya kuenda kuongea na mama nani hapo
ndio you drop
we just ni kusikizana. You see, instead of fighting each other, you see how the home gets to run when everyone is able to shine in, you know, the things they do best, and how you can apply this in relationships and even in the workplace. Getting to know, something that I've seen help me a lot recently is getting to know people and accepting them for who they are. And this is even with employees, with people you've contracted, people your colleagues, people you're talking to, people you're dating. Get to know them and take them for who they are. Do not start trying to change anyone. Do not start trying to say, unajua, back in the day, we used to walk, go mountains, it's okay, we can use your expertise yako ya walking na yangu ya Uber. Tujue tunaweza chukua Uber tukienda, tukirudi tutapiga lap. Unaona, like hakuna haja ya beef, hakuna haja ya kutounderstandiana. We don't need to fight about who has it easy, who has it harder. Every spec has its own difficulties. Oh, thank you guys for laughing so much. I know I'm funny. But it's fun, you know, it's interesting. So I like, even in the workplace, if you see huyo dem mwenye akona, ni funny mimi niko na sai locks na tattoos, lakini ukiona huyo dem akona locks na tattoos, unaona huyo dem, unajua she's rebellious nini, talk to me, get to know me. Maybe I'm really good at writing. I'm such an amazing orator. Maybe I don't like sitting at the desk for 9 hours, but I'm the person you send to those nice meetings. When you need someone to look nice and just make deals, nakuja na kapo na heels zangu. Najifanya naelewa vitu, naona naingisha kizungu kidogo once. Hapo katikati nasema yeah, indubitably. Watu wana tunapata hizo deals, unaona. So we can help. Let's work on, you know, loving each other for who we are, bringing out our strengths. It doesn't have to be a fight. Let's merge these different strengths that we have within the relationships. Millennials wenye wapendi kutumia emojis. Wewe umtumia emojis zote, umfundishe mambo za memes na emojis ndo akilan na gif ndo. My mom sends me really funny stickers. Nashangaa nani wanatoa. Who's sending my mother those stickers?
Acha nisitoe hiyo joke.
But you see, we can all merge and we can all, you know, work together and create very conducive environments for each other without judging each other, without making each other feel, you know, being condescending, like where there's nothing you can offer, ama we ni mzee, hakuna kitu unajua. Kila mtu ako very important na kila mtu ako hapo for a reason. So huyo mwenye ajui kutumia Microsoft na huyo mwenye anatumia ChatGPT, we need all of you. We need all of you to meet in the middle to make work easier, better and more fun.
Correct. CJ, when it comes to relationships now between these different ages, now we have to include feelings, right? But now from those, I don't want to go back. We have to include feelings now, because as a millennial, if I'm dating a Gen Z, there are things that they'll do, and I'm like, I think I need to date a millennial who is like me and will understand things. So how do we go about it?
It still comes back to communication. You know, part of what is being talked about, thinking about it, we actually raised the socially awkward people. We became very protective of our children, as opposed to before, where you know, there were no walls, no fences, no gates. When people lived in estates, every house was very accessible. And then now people begin to grow and they begin to become very self-centered. So neighbors began to put walls around each other, gates, grills. So then the kids were contained. Don't go out. Don't go and play outside. Stay in. So these kids then stopped learning how to socialize. So it is nearly an adapted and a learned behavior where you see even cousins don't know each other, right? Even just the children of siblings don't know each other. And so if my kids are always home, then they're going to struggle to learn how to socialize. So when you have a generation, for example, like mine, where we would walk, if we are dating, we walk to wherever you are, from here to Kikuyu, to come and see you. And then you escort us.
I remember those days.
The date was on the road. You can't afford, and there weren't many restaurants.
But the Njugus, they were Njugus.
Yeah, all those kind of roadside snacks. And then you find spaces where you'll sit on a rock, sit on the grass, become very creative because you don't have much. And so communication then was verbal, person to person, face to face. You read the body language. It is authentic. There are no emojis, no shortcuts. It's not somebody sending you a laughter emoji when they're asleep.
They're not even
like, people would laugh genuinely.
Yeah.
And so people understood how to deal with their emotions, own their emotions, handle their emotions, deal with the emotions of the other person. And then you get to a generation that then did not have to do that. They'll either text or call or do something. So then they're not used to being challenged about how they're showing up. They're not used to anybody putting them on the spot for their body language, their disinterest. Like I'm talking to you and you're on phone. They're not used to that because I'm always on phone. So why are you trying to tell me that I'm on phone? Am I not here? Very different. Attention spans began to go down. So these are now where the challenges of communication comes in, because somebody will be dating somebody else and they think you're not always here. We don't talk as much. We don't meet. You come from my generation, you probably want to meet a lot. And then you've got a Bobby who is feeling like, can we just not do this? We can do this on phone. It's not like we've got to meet.
Do a Zoom meeting.
Zoom date.
Google Meet. You have a Google Meet on that. So generally, it is, again, just communication. How do we communicate? When do we communicate? Why do we communicate? Some people will communicate because they need something. They feel it should be bare minimum. If I have a need, I will let you know. Some of us would communicate because this is how we thrive. We will want to talk to you like the whole time because we were very social and socialized like that. No TVs. I mean, I grew up in a place where the whole estate, there was only one television, and even television stations,
At 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
With the national anthem.
5 p.m. actually. And then by midnight, the thing is gone. So you literally learn talk to each other. And if you had a telly, that telly would not even be left where you were watching it at. When you've finished watching the telly, it would be carried away.
A great wall size.
And hidden, lest the thieves would come. So then people would eat together. But there was nothing like this one is getting their cat ugali and then going to the room, or you're coming in to eat at 10, people ate at 7. Everybody eats together. If you're not there at that time,
your own problem.
There's no food.
It's gone.
No food.
Yeah.
So when you're now dealing with somebody like that, it is important to them, like, let's do dinner together. But if you find a millennial or a Gen Z, they're thinking, I'll eat when I feel like.
Not hungry.
I'm not hungry. So I'll eat at midnight. Then you begin to get upset. Like, we don't do dinner together. She's wondering, who stopped you from going to eat?
You can eat.
You can eat.
I'm not hungry.
So it's the thing of communicating and understanding how we have been socialized. But I think it can work. Where there is intentionality, things can work. I was listening to Bobby and just hearing, if, for example, and I know Ken wouldn't want us to think like that, but if you look at the workplace also, like a family, where there's nobody who's going to resign here. So you have to learn how to deal with the Gen X, millennial, and with the Gen Alpha, plus the Gen Z. Normally when you have no option to quit, you work things out. And if we get into the relationship and say we want to make it work, I will try to understand where you're coming from. I will try to understand why your text messages are one word, monosyllable. So I've written a whole paragraph. Then you're like, yes.
Okay. Noted.
I was talking to somebody that I'm doing some personal coaching with. And I'll do the whole of this, Ken. And then they actually say, oh, Sal, so we've got this meeting tomorrow. I hope that is fine. We've confirmed that. And then they'll be like, noted, meeting is on. I'm like, are you sending me an email? So I'm trying to be conversational.
Yeah, even verbose with also.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come with a thumbs up. You've written so much, they come with a thumbs up. Now, if you come from my generation, you nearly feel that's rude.
You feel offended.
But the other person thinks
It's okay.
that was not a problem.
Yeah.
So I think the intentionality, Benz, would make that work out better. Get to know each other's communication styles, preferences, and get to find a compromise. If I love meeting, even if you don't love meeting,
We'll meet at some point.
let's meet. Then if you're doing a lot of texting, explain to me what those texts mean so that I'm not misunderstanding your text. You may say, all right, and I'm thinking, that's very rude, like it's dismissive. But you aren't being dismissive. You were very fine when you were saying, okay, or noted. That's just how you communicate. So it's important for me to ask you what you meant by that. Otherwise, we'll always keep on having issues.
Correct. Intentionality.
Yeah, I agree with CJ. You know, when you decide to date, this is where now, as a psychologist, I always say, age is not just a number. It is not just a number. And we cannot assume that you can just wake up today and date anybody you feel like. You need to understand what you're getting yourself into. If you have long-term goals with somebody you're dating, plus or minus 5, you cannot go beyond. Not a span of more than 10 years. Yes, not a span of more than 10 years between the both of you, because that's a whole decade.
True.
And a new decade brings something else. How we are thinking in 2025 is not how people in 2015 were thinking. And how people in 2015 were dating is not the same way people today are dating. We didn't have the taxi apps 10 years ago. We did not have most of the restaurants we are having here. You know, today we have so many choices. Yeah. And because of so many choices, you even think that you can date as many as you think you can. But how many will you date before you get yourself the right person? You need to get into a relationship knowing I am here to stay, not to try. Correct. Because when you go into a relationship that, let me see how this one works. You know, there's a meme that goes like, is there anyone, let me try this one dating one last time before I go celibate. You can't start a relationship with the mind that it might or might not work. Human beings are relational beings. So how do you relate? And that's why I also have a problem with people who do long distance relationship, long distance of 5 years. And the only thing you do is text and sext.
Yeah, true.
Yeah? How are you relational? You know, human beings must be relational into an extent that human warmth is more than an emoji. True. Because you don't know the feeling behind that emoji. And so when you want to date, and you date somebody coming from a different generation like yours, the first thing is, please take your time and understand this person. Before you go even, today we are rushing intimacy than any other part of the relationship. And so the attachment of the intimacy is what sustains that, so you don't even want to talk to each other, because the moment you are at loggerheads, what do? You meet. You want to get intimate before talking. So can you be intentional to meet this person? Get to understand what I like, dislike. By the way, it's not funny or it's not backdated to ask a person, what is your favorite color? Because you want to buy this person a gift. Why did we used to ask people these questions? What's your favorite meal? So that the day you want to take them out in, you will understand that they like mukimo, na beef. And so do your research well.
Unataka kumpikia?
Kabla umpikie tulikuwa tunapelekana. Hiyo ndio shida. Nyinyi mna fast track hii curriculum. Yeah? But it does not hurt knowing that every generation will do things according to how they see things. Ask a millennial, mental health ni nini? Atakwambia ni watu wazimu. Ask a Gen Z, mental health ni nini? Atakwambia it's about me taking care of myself and understanding that my environment really matter. You see, Gen Zs are more interested about the environment as opposed to the millennials. Why? Because the Gen Zs know my mental health must be related to the environment. You think it's about the climate change? It's about what surrounds them. Millennials were like, my parents raised me in a humble beginning, I must do better. And that's why CJ was saying, then millennials brought up overprotected children who were told, even some of my relatives don't like me. So because my aunties did not like me, their children equally do not like me. So let me protect my children from toxic relatives. And that's where now we are having it wrong. But where do we fall? We can always go back and redesign how relationships can be. It takes two to tango. Please don't listen to other people. Ukiwa na mbabazi wako and you're comfortable and you understand each other, kaa na yeye.
Kama anakutumia emoji, wakati. Bobby.
My M-Pesa ifuate.
Confirmed.
Yeah. Hizo ndo napenda. Let me just say.
Love language.
I love how they don't even have to talk.
Confirmed.
They just send you, they don't ask you many questions. They just send you.
You've been around, eh?
Oh, Atiana. It's very nice. Not even a lover. I mean like an uncle, you know.
Oh, okay, fine.
When they say hi to you, they do this.
Nakakitu, eh?
Oh, you have no idea.
Kama kupatilishiwa kitu iligo.
It's the best feeling. So, mimi nikiwind up, nataka tu kusema, let's create space for each other. In as much as we are being very cognizant that we can take up space as well, let's be cognizant of everyone else around us so that we're making sure everyone is living in harmony and we're able to coexist with each other. Everyone is important for a reason. That person who sijui unaonanga anavaa aje ama unaonanga anakaa aje ama unaona atokee ama anakujanga na usingizi ama anakuanga lazy ama everyone has their own strengths. So hone in on what their strengths are instead of, beating them up for you don't do this, you don't show up, you don't do let's just support each other, encourage each other to inwane. Everyone is important. Every generation, we learn so much from each other. Especially me as a woman, the people who've, brought me up and made me who I am are the women who've come before me. They've taught me to be everything that I am and beyond. So it's beautiful to listen to the people before you. And the people under me, they've taught me so much. Hizo vitu za ChatGPT, ni hao wananifanyanga. So it's nice and it's beautiful. Let's just love each other.
Yeah. CJ, your parting shot as we wind up.
I think we just at the place of needing to understand one generation or two generations were more into the process than the others were into the product. So that's why, what Ken is talking about, people feel intimacy is the end of it. So why not get to the end of it? Same way I said, if Ken is the line manager and then Bensu makes the decisions, they feel, why don't we just get to Bensu? It's a way of thinking of why not get to the end of it. If all of this is supposed to lead to this place, it's the reason people will feel like, if money is the goal, why should I go to school? If I can make money without going to school and all of that. So I think we've also kind of amplified the end product so much. Then now when we see people who are doing away with the process, we don't like it. But we told them that the product was the most important thing. And then they took it and worked a way around it. But both of them are important. It's important to embrace process because process brings growth and understanding and continuity. And then it's important to have the product as well. So both the older people, the younger people, need each other, need to have better conversations. You may be good at producing products, but then again, you see, there are many people who have had great results and didn't last. So you also need to listen to somebody who's been through the process, even if they don't seem to have the kind of results you have. They've known a few things. And maybe you understanding process may help you sustain your results for long.
Right. Ken, as we went.
I would say this, when you talk, you only repeat what you know. in an ideal situation where there are different generations, learn the power of silence, to listen to other people. That's where you discern stupidity and wisdom. I'll always say this, don't take the advice of older people as if it's a gospel truth, because even the stupid ones grow old. But at least in their stupidity, there's something you can learn from them. So learn the power of silence, not always to be the vocal one, that things must go your way. Sometimes learn to listen.
Learn to listen. All right, and that's how we wind it up. Bobby, today we've learned how to communicate,
Yes.
to be intentional, plus or minus 5.
Yes.
So, let me, I've got to do this. My daughter Gloria, today is her birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Gloria.
Check out for her Atemo Minor on social media. That's my gift to you, girl.
Oh.
All right.
Nice.
Happy birthday. And more life, more blessings.
All right.
So guys, we end it up at that. Thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Benzo.
Have a good day.
Come back again.
I sure will, of course. We'll see you again next week. God willing. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Communicate. Be intentional. Plus or minus 5.
M-Pesa.
Bye-bye.